Hi everyone, welcome back to the Red Path. My name's Jack, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at my tournament experience at Warhammerfest last weekend. And welcome back to the video. So we just wanted to put something together for me to go through my tournament experience at Warhammerfest, one of the larger tournaments I've been to. At time of recording, there should already have been a general thoughts video about me and Dara about how we found the event overall rather than specifically the tournament. And then also Dara should there should be a video of Dara's run through of his event as well. If you haven't watched those, please go check them out. They're great. Yeah. So in terms of my tournaments, obviously I ended up playing 7 rounds. So the way the tournament worked was there was the normal 5 games of a GT, and then once those 5 games had finished, you were put into your brackets, which were to do with how many games you'd won. So there was a 5-0 bracket, 4-1 bracket, a 3-2 bracket, 2-3, 1-4, 0-5. So Dara ended up in the 4-1 bracket, which I'm sure he's gone into. I ended up in the 3-2 bracket. I then played 2 more games after that, and ended up going 5-2, which was pretty good. I was a little bit disappointed not to make it into the 4-1 bracket, but I guess I've just got to get good. So without further ado, we'll go into my games. So also pairings. We didn't get pairings until about 10 minutes after the first round started, which was great. Good experiences all round. But yeah, so my first game, I matched into Iron Warriors. It was an interesting list. It was 10 Terminators with Rune, a Possessed Bomb as well. And but there wasn't a Priest. And there were 2 Masters of Possession, I think, but neither of them was Slanesh. It wasn't a properly buffed Terminator Bomb. And it was also a newer player. So basically, did I go first? I did go first. Didn't do that much damage with my alpha, but he ended up dedicating a lot to shifting my 8 rounds on the swing back. And it really set me up to take control of the board. So, I mean, the scorecard should be on the screen. You'll notice that I dropped some points on Blood for Blood God. That is essentially because I tabled him too fast. Yeah, and you'll also notice that I didn't really kill much. I didn't kill anything in my alpha. I wounded some squads because the 10-man blobber possessed. He made quite a few saves. And I can't remember what the other lot went into. Oh, the other lot went into a Mauler Fiend and a Disco Lord, and I had forgotten that the Disco Lord had a Flamer on it, and he managed to kill 2 on Overwatch, which were 2 of my 4/8 round on Overwatch, which was just great. But yeah, so it was an interesting game. As I say, I made a few mistakes that early on, but it didn't really matter because he was quite a new player, and Engage was a terrible pick for him. I think we talked about it after the game, but I think Engage is a really bad pick. Banners, I thought because it was Recover the Relics, which is a mission I haven't played that much before, you could get 3 banners up turn 1, and I wanted to force him to come to me a little bit because he had a bit more shooting than me. Yeah, so good solid game 1. Got 96. I think Dara got 99 in his first game as well. So we were memeing about that. But yeah, 96. A solid win to start me off. Executioners did work in that game, just picking up a vehicle a turn, which was great. Yeah. So up next, my game 2. It was Abandoned Sanctuaries, which was the mission that I was not looking forward to with my Invocatus pre-game move. In the event, it didn't matter because I went second. As you can see from the scorecard, I got dumpstered in this game. So he was a very good player, a lovely Swedish guy. He was a very good player. He went first, moved out quite aggressively with his Emperor's Chosen Custodians list. It was from memory 3 squads of 3 Sagittarium, 3 squads of 3 Wardens, a squad of 3 bikes, the usual bike captain, a Terminator captain with Praetorian plate, and Trajan, a 3-man squad of Venatari as well, and like one of the squads of Sisters of Silence, but I think it was the Flamer ones, maybe with the pre-game move. Yeah, he went first, staged really well onto objectives with some advances, and then basically come at me. And I did set up 2 4-inch charges and a 6-inch charge. On the 4-inch charge in the middle, he tangle footed and rolled a 6, making that a 10-inch charge, which I failed. And then my Invocatus failed a 6-inch charge into Trajan, which was great. I did make a 4-inch charge, but they whiffed a little bit, even with Red Butchers. It was 8 bumped. I think they killed 1 guy, killed the entire squad of Venatari, and then the rest of them failed to kill 3 Wardens. 3 Wardens and the Terminator Captain. Yeah, they only killed, I think the rest of them combined killed like 1 Warden, which was sick. And that kind of just set the tone for the game. Like my rolling was quite bad. He spiked on 4-ups quite a lot, quite early on, and it meant that he was able to trade really effectively for like quite a lot of my army. Yeah, he was a very good player. As you can see, he was utterly dominant throughout the game. Which, yeah, fine. It was that kind of game. As I say, lovely guy. Checked on me after every game, see how I was doing, how the event was going. And it was, yeah, in terms of what I could have done differently, I'm not sure there's much that I would have done, because so the thing is, my turn 1, if I hadn't gone at him with at least some stuff, he would have just come at me the next turn, and I would have lost that way instead, probably worse. But so yeah, that was, yeah, I didn't kill much of his army at all, as you can see from the no prisoners score. Yeah, onwards and upwards. So game 3, the end of Saturday, me and Dara both paired into guard, and we were both like, fuck, we're both screwed. Like so I haven't played new guard. I'm aware I dodged them at the height of their power, but I also know they're still pretty good. So the Kazakin bomb bullshit was nerfed with the like essentially uncapped mortal wounds, which was like 6 per squad or something like that. So I, yeah, paired into guard. It was a weird game. I had mentioned my pre-game move, and he was very, very scared about me getting 8-bound into his army and killing lots of stuff. So his deployment was, in my opinion, too conservative. He basically, it was tied to conviction. He just held back into a corner and bubble wrapped all of his tanks and mortars in like squads of guardsmen. And then I went second. So he really struggled to move out and take control of the board. I think everything was in that corner except a Chimera with 10 Kazakin and a 1 Scout Sentinel. So when he went first, he was unable to like do that much. Like really do that much. He couldn't shoot anything. He teleported his Kazakin, swapped out his 100-point Kazakin unit for one of my 3 squads of 4 8-bound, which was like fine for me because it meant that I just killed them, although they took longer to die than they should have. I killed them in return. And then his second squad of Kazakin didn't really get to do the same bullshit because I got the Chimera that they were in. A couple died getting out, and then they just didn't have a very good target. I think they ended up shooting like berserks or something, which was fine. As I say, really weird game. I took banners because it's tied to conviction. You can get 3 out first turn. And especially, I felt pretty safe on that when I saw his deployment. Yeah, I mean, I thought for most of the game that I'd lost it, forgetting how like backloaded our secondaries tend to be, Father Scrolls in particular, and then some stuff ended up just about surviving across no man's land, and I got into his tanks. My exalted 8-bound champion pretty much soloed a Lemon Russ. Pretty funny. And like I was able to start just nicking objectives and getting a consistent 2-on overrun by trading onto one of the objectives that was miles away from him. The the funniest part of the game was realizing quite late, like way later than I should have, that executioners are really good at killing mortar squads. It's just hadn't, and that in fact they were probably the best target for them because although I had the +1 to hit against vehicles, toughness 8 not that good for my strength 7 guns, whereas 2 wound toughness 3 with a 5-up save, real fucking good for executioner autocannons. And because he'd hidden them sort of out in the open because he wanted to put them as far back as possible. Like he'd put them behind dents. Fine, I was hitting on 4s and then killing on 2s. Sure. So I was too scared and was very conservative with my war dogs early on, and then towards the end just sort of poked them out, and then hung one out, killed a squad, hung the other one out, killed another squad, and then it was one squad of mortars, which was like I could deal with that. And then with rotate and stuff on the shoot back, I didn't lose, and he whiffed a little bit on his plasma, but one of his tanks took more damage from his own rolling than from anything I did, which was funny for me at least. Probably not for him. Yeah, pretty solid game I think for me. I think I played it really well. I think his deployment kind of sealed him in and stuck him with not being able to being able to play the mission that well. I think it really punished especially on the 2-3 more. He couldn't really spread out across the board, and I ended up pinning him in quite a bit. Yeah, so that's the end of day 1. So I was 2-1 at the end of day 1. Wins against Guard and Iron Warriors, and a loss against Custodes. It was Born Soldiers as well. Born Soldiers Guard. So the 6-2 auto wind. The classic. So bright and early on day 2, round 4. Again, pairings didn't go up until the day of and potentially during the round. I was matched into Death Guard. It was an I would say unorthodox list. It had 10 Plague Marines, a Rhino, 1 squad of 5 Blight Lords, a squad of 3 Death Shroud, a Plague Bus Crawler, I want to say a Spawn, Plaguecaster, the Fight Last guy, like the not counter charging Aura guy, and Morty. And I haven't played Death Guard with the new book either yet, so I was a bit nervous about that. As you can see, it went quite well. I got first turn. So actually, that was the second game. I thought I'd gone all weekend only going first in my first game, but that was the second game I went first. And I managed to, well, I shot the Rhino with the Plague Marines and the Plague, so he took Warp Ritual, and so I was like, cool, I'm just going to kill the Plaguecaster, and then he has to send Morty forwards, and I'll just kill him with everything I have. Was my basic game plan. And I got the Rhino that had the Plaguecaster and the squad of the Plague Marines in down to 1 wound with shooting. He CP'd a save and made it, which meant that my 8-bound rush charged the Rhino and ended up putting like hemming him in quite a bit. Like when the Plague Marines got out, when it got destroyed, he had to get out quite far back. Same with the Plaguecaster, and then I consolidated into the Plaguecaster so he couldn't fall back and do the action, or just move around me and do the action. Just a bit of a nuisance basically. And then he left him in combat the next turn, so I swung into him and killed him when I fought on death. And then he sort of just sent Morty forwards. So I also tried to go into Morty as well in my first turn, which was potentially a mistake, but also fine. And so he sent Morty into the middle because it was that mission conversion. You want to hold, you want to be pushing straight across the board. It's like the old sweep and clear. And he went into my turn 3 with only 1 CP. And so I made 8 charges in that turn across the board. 5 of them were into Morty with, I think, Invocatus, Glaive Lord, Berserker Squad, 8-bound Squad, Spawn. and the 8-bound squad did it because I shot him a bit as well first, and he took some damage from that. But I killed him. Not just about, I killed him fairly easily with all of that stuff. Like, I dedicated a lot to make sure it happened. And then he had like a couple of Blight Lords and the Fight Last guy. Yeah, and then I think he had a squad of Death Shroud left, but I screened him all right. So they ended up dropping somewhere fairly inconsequential and like killing a spawn and then just being stuck there, moving really slow. And I was like fine to leave them on that objective because I didn't need to kill them. I may have counter-struck my Exalted State Bound. I don't know. Yeah, so I again, the points I dropped were because I killed him too fast, basically. And he didn't kill enough of my stuff, which was on objectives. So Blood God Stew, obviously, is the one where I drop points there. Yeah, really fun game. So to hear some of his mates were big fans of the channel, so that was gratifying to hear as well. Yeah, I mean, part of the skulls is obviously the theme here is that it's an auto pick. Even in the game where I got dumpstered against Custodes, I got 15 fairly easily, and that was just from me being tabled. Blood for the Blood God is something that I quite like because I know some people don't like it because it's capped at 4 and like it requires more interactivity, but I quite like that it's just play game, get points. And I've said that. I think I've said that since the start. Blood God is something I've struggled with scoring points on. Part of that is probably down to me just not recording all the points that I score on it properly. Like, I definitely forget sometimes when objectives get drowned in blood, but I'm also just not as good at scoring it. I don't know. There's also some opposition secondaries that I feel like counter it a little bit. So stuff like shock tactics like that. You don't really want to be standing on objectives unless you know you can weather the storm or you want to like trade stuff for it. So like unless you know your fight and death is going to clear everything that they put on the objective, basically, is my thought process, but it's not well formed. Yeah, so this was obviously quite a brutal game. But yeah, so 3-1 going into game 5, the last game of the regular tournament for the bracket cuts. And I matched into Mbira, which I lost. Michael Hooper, very, very good player. One of the American mercenaries on Team Iceland. I think he finished inside the top 20 in the end. And his list was a sight to behold. 3 characters, so a Demon Prince with the Helm of Brazen Ire, so the -1 to Wound Relic, Implicatus with his Warlord trait, and a March of Execution to just bare bones. Then 2 Rhinos, 8 squads of 5 Berserkers. Some had icons, all of them had Eviscerators, because why would you not? A squad of 5 8-bound, 2 squads of 3 8-bound, 3 spawn, and I'm pretty sure that was it. Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't trade into that. Like, I didn't have enough stuff to trade into it. There was a point at which I might have swung it. I needed to make an 8-inch charge with my remaining squad of 4 8-bound into a squad of Berserkers and the Demon Prince, and it would have left him quite weak on that flank. But yeah, because he wouldn't have been able to. He would have been able to fight on death with the Berserkers, but they don't necessarily kill a squad of 4 8-bound. Because I think I had shrugs up and stuff like that at that point. But I unfortunately did not make the charge, even with a reroll, and that meant that game just got away from me a little bit. As you can see from my no prisoners, I did score fairly well on that. I did kill quite a lot of his stuff. He didn't have too many units left by the end of it. But yeah, alas, I also fucked up with Blood Surge. Well, I mean, I didn't fuck up with Blood Surge. I had a full strength Armiger, War Dog, sorry, that I shot at 3 Berserkers and failed to kill 3 Berserkers, 2 Berserkers, I think it was. Didn't kill them. They Blood Surged onto an objective. So yeah, sure. I don't know what that is on that. Maybe I shouldn't have expected to kill them. It just felt like I should have. But yeah, so it was. Yeah, it was a good game. Probably maybe a little bit closer than it looks there, although that doesn't look that horrendous. But we talked a lot about what makes good World Eaters lists and how to play them, and I think that's reflected in the list I've submitted for my next tournament at Ragnarok next weekend. This week, tomorrow is this weekend. So yeah, I'll go into that a little bit when I go into list tweaks at the end, but at risk of rambling. Then into game 6. So this was after the brackets. This was after I was into my 3 and 2 bracket. I matched into Jay Meadowcoat, who is Mohawk Miniatures. He does painting streams on Twitch. Does a lot of beautiful models. And I was playing his Pure Noble Demons list. He went first, which meant that I didn't do any of that. I think this scorecard is wrong. I did get a bomb right at the end, so it was 94-62. I didn't get first turn, so no Invocatus Rush. He put pretty much half his army in Deep Strike for that Demon's turn 2 Beta Strike, I guess. And yeah, I mean, his go turn with Demons, because we kept that point of leadership that Chaos Space Marines got, ended up relying on a lot of 7-inch charges, and I think he made one of them with some Beast of Nurgle. After Fight on Death just really hurt him. I think I killed 2 of the 3 beasts with my Fight on Death, and then was able to clap back real hard, and killed a lot of his stuff in my turn 2, I want to say. Yeah, it would have been turn 2, looking at Blood for Bloodgood. Yeah, I mean, there some really funny shit happened in that game, though. So, like, he strung out to move block me with Nurglings in his turn 1. I took the bait, because I might as well, because I had Fight and Death and loads of CP, and sent 8-bound in to clear the Nurglings, and my squad of 4 8-bound failed to kill a squad of 4 Nurglings. So that was funny. And he just took the piss out of me for a long, long time, which is probably deserved at that point, because, yeah, that mathematically shouldn't happen, I want to say. There was another point at which I sent 5 Berserkers into 2 Nurgling bases and again failed to kill them. That was the next turn. So, you know, I'm never living that down. Very funny game. Like, absolutely ridiculous game. But, yeah. When he whiffed some of his 7-inch charges that he really needs to go off, kind of writing was kind of on the wall there, and my clapback sort of sealed it. When most of my stuff stuck and killed what I wanted it to kill. Yeah, so that was the end of day 2. I was, what was I? 4 and 2 at that point. 4 and 2 at that point. And into day 3. So the only reason I played my first game of day 3 was because Dara was very hungover and turned up a little bit late. So I was like, I might as well play my game. And so the pairings, because lots of people dropped between day 2 and day 3, I was supposed to be into Blood Angels, and then my opponent didn't turn up, so they repaired everyone within the same bracket, and I went into Admech, which was remains the first time I played Admech this edition, which seems wild, given they were everywhere briefly. I'm glad I didn't play them then, but yeah, they were everywhere briefly, and I somehow have dodged Admech until this point in the edition, with like a month and a half, 2 months to go. Yeah, didn't go first, so fine. He had a couple of the horse people, dragoons. No, not dragoons. The horse people. Don't know what they're called. Outriders. Don't know. One squad of infiltrators, 2 big blobs of rangers. He was playing Lucius. It was very hard to kill everything in his army. He had 2 big squads of breachers. One that he just put a transhuman buff on loads. He had a 5 squad of Lads Chickens, a 4 squad of Lancer Chickens. I think that was it. And then like a bunch of buffing characters. But so he went first, moved quite aggressively. So moved up quite aggressively. I had pre-game moved onto some of the middle objectives, it was the scouring, so that he couldn't scan like one of my home objectives or like the middle objective. I still think that was the right play. It cost me like the better part of 2 8-bound squads, but also denied him like easy victory points. and sort of kept his primary bit down, and forced him to scan his like home objectives rather than my home objectives. But yeah, so I used my heroic intervention strat a lot in this game. I made it into one of his squads in the first turn, one of his horse squad, outrated person squads, but didn't kill them because I only had 1 8-bound left by the time I got to the combat phase. Fine, still worth the CP to speculatively clear them. And then yeah, I ended up just trading quite well. I made like a decent length 3d6, drop the last charge into one of his ranger blobs and killed like 8 of them. Forced him to spend the CP to auto pass. And then when he was trying to deal with, he moved up the other blob to try and deal with them, but shot the wounded squad of berserkers with the wounded squad of Scutari first, and didn't kill them, and they blood surged into a unit, and that meant they were safe, and also they fought first. Me having reminded him about blood surge a couple of times, but not in that shooting phase. But you know, I told him that it wasn't a gotcha. I told him about blood surge. And yeah, bottom of my turn 3, he conceded just because it was like, so he had moved his breaches quite forward quite aggressively, and I just committed quite a lot of stuff I thought to try and kill them, and then did, and then my shooting phase against the other squad of breaches was quite successful. Managed to kill like 3 or 4 of them. The last one ran, and then yeah, I was like eating through his blocks of rangers, and one of my 8-bound had made it through a shooting phase and with like 1 wound left, and charged one of his supporting characters in it. Although he didn't kill him, but he ran out of resources basically. He whiffed a bit on shooting in the early turns, like I think his go turn when he like was able to make everything ballistic skill 2. Just didn't quite kill enough. I think I got lucky. I spiked on like 4 open bonds on one of my knights as well with the diaball up bulwark. But yeah, so it turned into a decent sized win for me. But yeah, then I decided to drop. Dara had turned up. I was knackered and wanted to play a really chill game for my last game because I also had commitments elsewhere. And so me and Dara played our narrative game, which I'm just going to put the score on the screen. This is the second time me and Dara played, and I was playing a fun, fluffy list, and Dara was playing his 4-on-1 GT list. And I still managed to win. I will say, playing a proper mirror match where you both take exactly the same secondaries and have quite similar lists, very funny. Yeah, that was an amusing game. But as you can see, we all know who the best World Eater player on the channel is. Yeah. In terms of list, I obviously ran my. So I had Imbricatus with his Warlord trait. I had a Juggernaut Lord with Berserker Glaive. I had 4 squads of 5 Berserkers, 2 with Icons, all with Eviscerators. I had 1 squad of Jackals, bare bones, just 10 of them. 3 squads, 4 8-bound, a squad of 3 Exalted 8-bound, 3 individual Spawn, 2 Rhinos, and then 2 Wardog Executioners with Stubbers. One of them had Mirror Fates to regen CP whenever my opponent spent them. And they had Worthy Offerings, which is +1 to hit against vehicles, characters, monsters. As I mentioned, my game against my round 5 opponent, Michael, the World Eater player, was instructional. So I've made a couple of tweaks to my list that I'm taking to Ragnarok this weekend. It's a 6-round GT. It's on GW-ish terrain. The terrain pack's weird. I think it's Perspex squares with some terrain on it, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I've heard rumors from other people who've gone, but we'll see. I've tweaked my list quite a bit. So I've dropped my Glaive Lord. I've introduced a Demon Prince with Talisman of Rage, which is the pick a core unit within 9 inches in the command phase, give them 6 to hit auto wound. Then I have 7 squads of 5 Berserkers, all with Eviscerators. 2 of them still have Icons. The theory being that you can get quite a nice springboard out of Rhinos, and with the 3d6 charge it makes their reliable threat range quite long. And I think, like Michael, I'm going to be cycling units in and out of rhinos to like just get that 3-inch boost, which was really good. And I probably won't play it as well as he did, but it's good to get good at that skill, right? So I've got 7 squads of 5 berserkers. I've then only got 2 squads of 4 8-bounds just for the alpha rush if it comes up. In cards for this water trait, obviously. A squad of 3 exalted 8-bound, 2 rhinos, 3 individual spawn, and then only 1 war dog this time with the Mirror of Fates upgrade. The theory being that's the most valuable bit anyway, in my opinion. We'll see if that holds true. I feel like I'm going to miss the shooting, but we'll see. I mean, it'll still be able to put dent in things and like kill light vehicles and stuff like that, but it's not like massed firepower, and it just means that I'll have to be really careful about how I use him. But Mirror of Fates is really useful. I really like having the extra CP. So I start on 4 CP. It's 2,000 points on the nose. And because I have more berserkers and less 8-bound, the fight and death strats, the 1 CP fight and death, 1 CP heroic makes them a really good toolbox unit, I think. And I'd be interested to see if I can play the trading game as well as I feel like I need to with that list. But yeah, I'll tune into Out Weekly next week, I guess, to see how the list goes and how the terrain was, most importantly, because I've noticed there are a lot of shooting lists going. But we'll see. Yeah, so were you at Fest? Did you see us? Come join the Discord and tell us, or leave a comment below telling us you saw us, that we were dicks, that Dara's a dick, that Dara's bad at 40k, that I'm bad at 40k, all of that. But most importantly, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.